Greetings. My name is Nicholas Rojas. I'm with Trespa Design Center, and I'm the marketing person for Trespa North America. I'd like to thank ASLA for being here, our guests, you for being here, and especially to our speakers who are from all over the world, and we're glad to have them here. Trespa is a Dutch company based in Weert, the Netherlands. It has been around for 50 years, very well known in Europe. It is global. Many places around the world are now using Trespa. Trespa is a high pressure laminate, 70% wood, 30% phenolic resin, used as a rain screen. We have a map of projects that are done here in the city. If you're interested, please feel free to take a leaflet. Also, design centers, Trespa design centers are located in three places in the world. One, New York, the others in Santiago, Chile, and the other in Barcelona, Spain. If you'd like to know more about Trespa, please visit trespa.com. And we do have leaflets around, so please feel free to take some if you're interested in knowing more about Trespa. I can give you a card of our local salesman, and you can always ask me questions as well. So with that, Trespa takes safety very seriously. Please, the door that you entered is the door that you exit if there's an emergency. Also, please feel free to use either one of the bathrooms. If one is occupied, please feel free to use it. Gentlemen, put the seat down. Otherwise, enjoy the food and the speakers this evening, and thank you all for coming.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Amy Verrill. I'm a board member for New York ASLA and programs co-chair. Thank you again, Nicholas, for providing us this beautiful space. And I'm very excited. It's our first event here. And also I'd like to thank Bartlett Tree Experts, our sponsor for our entire series, Global Perspectives this month. Who've also made it possible for us to provide these free CEU events. So a couple of plugs for our upcoming events really quick. We've got, now that April's over, we have a bunch of tours. We've got Tour Governor's Island, tour of Rainbow's Island, we've got book talk with Cornelia Oberlander, gallery talk and Central Park photography, tons of stuff. So check back on our website frequently for all of the stuff we have coming up. So again, this is our third event. Many of you have been to the previous two events for Global Perspectives. For National Landscape Architecture Month, we wanted to kind of check out what's going on internationally. So we're really excited to conclude the series with folks from all over the world. So we are really excited to have our panel coming from Italy and Australia, but based in New York, and also Spain and Iran. And also excited to have Marta Johnson moderate our panel this evening. She's a long-time ASLA board member, and also adjunct professor at City College. So just more housekeeping. If you need to get CEUs for this evening, we're offering one LACES CEU. Make sure you sign in and fill out the comment card to get your CEU at the end. And I think that's about it. I'll turn it over to Marta.
So international work, as you know, reflects our increasingly global economy. And this deeper understanding that we're seeking of the world's cultures and their ecologies has been added to the toolbox that landscape architects use to do their work. And of course, many of us like to travel, and we enjoy seeing both traditional and contemporary work, but we don't often get an opportunity to speak directly to the designers of those spaces that we enjoy traveling to. So tonight we're privileged to have these international practitioners bring their ideas and examples to us, and we also get to talk with them. So it's my pleasure to introduce Julia Watson, first of all, the principal of Studio Reed in New York City and Australia. Following her will be Sara, Zare, a visiting scholar at the State University of New York, Environmental Science Forestry, SUNY-ESF. Also, she's studying at the University of Tehran in Iran, and she's going to speak about urban forestry. Enrique Ibanez Gonzalez is principal with Urban Matters in Spain and is here in New York for a number of other reasons, including accepting a prize. And Eleonora Ziliante, who has been around New York for quite a while, but is originally from Italy, is principal of her own office, Land Studio in New York City, and also collaborates with a number of prominent design firms in the area. So we'll start with Julia, and I won't get up and introduce the others as they go through. We'll just kind of go through it. We'll do sequentially. And thank you very much again for being here. Julia.
Hi, everybody. There we go. So today I'm talking about slow lands, sacred lands and slow disasters. I have a company called Studio Greene and started about a year ago. So we're really sort of in the initial stages of where we want to be and what the mission is for the company. But I'm just going to go through the sort of evolution of how it came about and the research and design behind the projects. RE actually sort of stands for research and design, so it's kind of pertinent with the topic this evening. So this is an image that was taken in 2008, and it's taken by a mining company that were flying over the rainforest of Brazil, and this is an uncontacted tribe. And when I first saw this image, I was really mesmerized by these people who look sort of rather primitive. But what I came to understand, what really sort of drew me to this picture, is that I sort of looked at it as that these people have an innovation, and the way that they actually live in their environments is really quite intelligent, and we probably have something to learn from these people. And so, looking at that image, I started to ask myself a couple of questions, and this sort of got me into the research that I've been doing for the last 5 years. And those questions were, what do they know that we once knew? Is this knowledge lost, or is it just forgotten? And how can we use this knowledge today? So it turns out that the knowledge is not lost, it's not forgotten, it's just hidden in some of the remotest places on Earth. And for the last 5 years, through academia and now through practice, I've been exploring these different places. One of these places is the Wakasis, and this is in northern India. These people make living bridges, and they make those bridges by training the secondary root systems of the fig trees that grow along the sides of the river corridors, and they train them to the other side of the river. This is an example of a double-decker bridge. And so when I was looking at this, I was sort of trying to figure out how can we look at these types of systems and start to reconfigure how we make our types of infrastructures. This is an image of the Ifugao people. There's the Palayan rice terraces, and they're located on the island of Luzon in the Philippines. And they make these rice terraces on these mountains at the scale of skyscrapers, and they literally can terraform the land up to a 70 to 80% grade. These are the Subak sacred rice terraces located in Bali, Indonesia. And these are the most biodiverse agrarian systems that are actually known to man. They're about 1,000 years old, these rice terraces, and they don't use any pesticides or fertilizers at all. And the reason they can really sustain that life cycle of thousands of years without use of any pesticides or fertilizers is because they've come to understand the natural cycles that they're dealing with, and they're using their natural environmental cycles to their advantage. One of those cycles is the monsoon rains, which actually, at the top of the mountains of the island, they've got a sort of sacred land that's all protected. And when monsoon rains come down, the volcanic soils actually leach out the phosphorus and the potassium, and that provides the fertilizer for all the rice terraces. So that's how this cycle can keep on going. The reason that they don't use pesticides is because at the scale of watersheds, after the harvest, the rice terraces actually flood the whole watershed, and they reduce any possibility for pests or vermin to actually feed on anything. So they've really started to understand how they can use the large environmental cycles to sustain these, what we would call eco-innovations. And so the research that I've been doing through academia has really started to
showing that there are a lot of different types of these eco-innovations, and then I started to classify these eco-innovations. And right now, we've been able to do case studies of about 20 different eco-innovations from around the world. And the classification system first was looking at, say, rice terraces in varying rice terraces around the world. So Sawa Tambak in Java, the Subak in Bali, and then the Ifugao in the Philippines. But then to think about how these different eco-innovations that are pretty low tech could be thought of as landscape infrastructures. And so we classified them into thinking, well, these are rice terraces, but they could be actually adapted through an innovation to become vertical wetlands. So that was kind of the first sort of evolution of taking that research into a step into design. The second one was that to understand that while these are basic designs, there's a similarity, and that's why they can be categorized, but there's a differentiation in the diversity of the practice. So you might get rice terraces in varying parts all over the world, but the way that you practice in those rice terraces, based upon different materials available, or based upon different climatic conditions, that becomes a variation. The third thing that we sort of came to understand by doing this research and this sort of classification system is that you'll find that the different rice terraces actually all occur in the same global biome. So then you could understand that if you were to take one of these systems and think about migrating them to a different part of the world, you can migrate these innovations based upon different biomes. The other thing about this sort of type of work and looking at this sort of conservation lands is when you're looking at these eco-innovations, it's not just a technology or a landscape feature that you're actually preserving a culture as well. And the cultural heritage and the rituals and practices that are landscape flows is really important as well, and that has to be understood and taken into consideration when you're designing. So here's just an example of a graphic that shows the different stages of the rice transplanting cycle and the growing cycle, which is understanding the levels of precipitation and taking advantage of precipitation levels throughout the year. And up here, which is a little bit hard to see, there's all different ceremonies that take place throughout the year that's based on the different stages of the rice cycle. So every single day, or every single month, or yearly, there's all these different rituals that keep on reiterating the different practices which actually sustain these incredible landscapes. So a year ago, after doing all that sort of research, this Bali World Heritage Area was actually ratified. So previously, there had been problems in this World Heritage landscape before it became World Heritage. There was issues from globalization. There was issues of water scarcity, deforestation. So they wanted to make it World Heritage listed. And that was fantastic. Once that happened, suddenly a whole other slew of problems came from tourism. So once it was World Heritage listed, and then these other problems from tourism, such as transfer of land use from the terraces to hotels, they asked me to come and start designing a concept plan to deal with some of the problems that are coming from the tourism. And the concept plan was called Pintu Jabang Tanasuki, which means a gateway to sacred lands. And it's really looking at a new model of World Heritage conservation to really understand how to conserve these sort of eco-innovation landscapes, as well as the cultural practices, and to give back to the communities who are there and who are living there. And so the whole project sort of took into account interpretive landscapes, dealing with tourism, dealing with transportation, conservation of forests, conservation of the actual eco-innovation areas, the rice terraces. But a lot of it was also thinking about how you could actually sustain the livelihood of the people who live in these cultural landscapes as well. And so one of the things that was really important for this project was to consider how you could put in place a landscape for tourism that would also be a landscape infrastructure that would do something like vertical wetlands and cleaning the water systems that were polluted. But also, you could actually make some capital for the farmers who lived in these different landscapes. And I just wanted to go into one aspect of this project up at the top there, which was called the adapted aquaculture system. So in the World Heritage area, There's it's about 19,500 hectares of World Heritage Area. There's 21 villages in this World Heritage Area. One part of it is Lake Batur here. And actually in Lake Batur there's a really unsustainable and quite polluting aquaculture system. So one of the ideas was to actually bring in an aquaculture system that we've observed that works really successfully. It's actually located in Benin, in West Africa, on a lake called Gandhi. And it's one of the largest lacustrine villages in the world. It's 20,000 people who live on this river, and they make their whole income from an aquaculture system by trapping fish in what they call fish paddocks that are made from sticking branches in the ground and wrapping them in a net. And it's completely sustainable. It actually increases the biodiversity in that lake. And so that we were suggesting that they could actually take and migrate this eco-innovation to try and adapt the aquaculture systems used in Lake Batur to try and clean the water in the lake and increase the biodiversity in the lake. Another part of the project that we found that was actually quite difficult was community participation. So when you're dealing with this type of a project at a really large scale, involving 21 villages, and it's actually a really a different community, there's a lot of participation that needs to take place so that once the project is sort of in place, there's going to be ownership taken by the people who live in the World Heritage Area. And what we started to do was work with the IEEE, which is the Electrical Engineers for Humanity, to develop a new interactive technology demonstrator that would develop a new tourist framework so that you could actually do three things. You could give control back to the community who lived in the World Heritage Area so that they could control when tourists could go to each individual site. Say if there was a ceremony, a religious ceremony taking place in one of the areas, they could shut that down for tourism. They would also offer income to the people who are living in the World Heritage Area because we could charge for a ticket. And thirdly, we would actually get information about what the tourists were doing in these particular landscapes, because that's one of the things that we actually don't know is how to monitor and what people are doing in these particular World Heritage landscapes. So from that particular project, which is now sort of in review with the Ministry of Culture and Education, another project came up, which was to look at a pilgrimage site in India and to try and preserve a pilgrimage site. It's called the Holy Hill of Arunachala. It's the physical manifestation of Lord Shiva, and they've got a lot of problems there as well, and they want to make that World Heritage listed. And so we're talking about right now with the client to transfer that particular technology as well, using that demonstrator, the technology demonstrator, to try and use that at this particular site, and to also try and get it World Heritage listed. So the problems that are here is that there's 22,000 squatters living on the mountain. There's water scarcity, there's deforestation, and now they're talking about putting a mine just near the World Heritage site, the proposed World Heritage site. When you go to this particular site, the reason it's a religious site is because there's a road which goes around the mountain. It takes about 4 hours to walk it. It's 13 kilometers. And once you walk it, you're sort of absolved of the sins of a lifetime and you're blessed by the actual Lord there. So that's the sort of idea behind trying to preserve this particular landscape. And the last project I wanted to talk about was thinking about the idea of those eco-innovations and really putting them into a sort of a much different context than the way designers would usually work. So we have this other project that's come up, which is working with the Complexity Center at Nanyang University in Singapore, plus the Eckelmann Institute of Molecular Biology in Jakarta, Indonesia. And what we're trying to do is look at different types of eco-innovations of communities that live with apex predator species or larger species to understand how you can actually live and cohabit with different large mammal communities. And here we're looking at an example of the Koku people who live in Madhya Pradesh, and the way that they've actually changed their village morphology, how they have built different types of infrastructures to observe how their pastoral animals actually interact with the apex species of the tiger. they live in a tiger reserve, so that's why we're studying this particular community. And also to understand how they go into the forest where the tigers actually live and they collect all their resources without sort of ever having any contestation with the tigers that live in this reserve. And so what we're actually doing is purely research. It's not actually a design proposal. So we're working with these two different research organizations to create this working group that looks at these traditional living systems and to just come up with this idea to discover these new models for cohabitation. And the reason behind it is because this institute actually looks at the increase in zoonotic diseases spawned by the habitat destruction of large tigers, elephants, orangutans, and rhinoceros. So if we can sort of work together, we're hoping that we can come up with these new models to actually alleviate this issue of disease dispersion between these communities. And so I just wanted to end with this slide, mainly because when I sort of looked at this in the beginning, sort of, you can see that maybe these people appear to be somewhat primitive, but in the last 5 years, there's research that's come out that says that the most biodiverse ecosystems on Earth are actually inhabited by these particular kind of people, and that there's actually a lot of intelligence in the type of eco-innovations and the way that they're adapting their ecosystems that we haven't really explored or really yet come to understand, and that perhaps by looking a little bit more at viewing their ecological adaptations as really quite an intelligent system, we might think about exploring new areas of design and practice in landscape architecture.
I'm Sara, nice to meet you. Thank you for listening for my presentation. This presentation is a part of my PhD thesis proposal and a part of the research project about urban forestry future study. It's a study in Tehran city. It's about future study by some simulation technique like system dynamic, as I explained. Urban forest in different countries include woodlands, parks, gardens, street and square vegetation, and other green areas within urban agglomeration. Also, urban forest as a vital component of human health, environmental amenities, quality of urban life, and sustainability of the city. The case study in this project is Tehran city. Tehran has been Iran's capital since 1778. It covers an area of 730 square kilometers, and on the whole, the city has semi-arid climate. Tehran city is the richest city of Iran and it contributes approximately 29% of country's GDP. Also, it houses 18% of country's population. Tehran is one of the best 20 metropolitan cities in the world. Also, Tehran province is the most industrialized province in Iran. The urban population increased from 1 million up to 12 million in 63 years. So urban forest is a necessity in Tehran with many trees found within Greene state. In vocabulary, Tehran means pick up the season trees or planting. Forest planting began during World War, and in Tehran it began by acacia species, and the management of these trees in Tehran began from 1960 during oil industry development. This table shows urban forest vegetation types in different countries. As you see, for example, in the United States, we have all of the classification vegetation of urban forest include. But in Iran, we have 3 of these classifications, such as trees, woody plants, urban forest and green space, and plantation. A city's urban forest, as you know, coverage is related to locational biophysical factors such as temperature and precipitation, which determines seed germination, the emergence of sapling, and vegetation growth into various forms. So urban forests in Iran including vegetation cover inside and around the city and include single tree, group trees with the vegetation, green space and plantation. This project will be done by two main methods: future study by system dynamic simulation technique and future study by assessing Tehran urban forest with I3 future programming software. Future study or a strategic foresight is the ability to explore the future, to identify drivers of change and consider potential outcomes to inform strategic decision. So the result of this lead us to a basic strategic planning. The importance of future study in urban forestry is that urban forest, especially in Tehran, has numerous opportunities and challenges that complicate planning for the future. And also urban forests are exposed to rapid change, so proper planning and management is needed to sustain this resource and its service. The main goal of this study is recognition, opportunities and challenges in the development of urban forests in Tehran, designing urban forest development scenarios, recognition and introduce appropriate action to implement the scenarios, also prediction urban forest development in area for next 30 or 60 years. The future study techniques that selected in this project is system dynamic. It's a simulation technique that analyzes interactive relationship between input parameters and output, and it was originally proposed by Mr. J.W. Forrester in 1950. System dynamic technique has several powerful software such as Dynamo, Stella, PowerSim, and Rensing that we use Rensing in this project. About the literature, we can say that many of studies and projects make use of system dynamics in related fields such as environmental planning, social and economic issues, air pollution, hydrological process, nutrition cycling, vegetation growth, also in regional development by different elements such as agriculture, population, industry, and ecology. Data in this study provided during 20 past years, including Tehran city population, total urban forest area, citizen satisfaction, public education, air pollution, and including budget, national budget for development urban forestry. And this is a table of part of data that we have. And Rensing is the software that's selected to do this project. It's a special software because in addition to entering data to this software, we should determine the relationship, positive or negative relationship between all of the factors that we have, and then we should design like this diagram to the software, and software automatically generates some equation, and then we based on this step we can design some scenario. The scenario is a management tool that we should design 3 scenarios like this table. These 3 scenarios in 3 different status, high, medium, and low, are designed in 4 different main factors for development urban forestry in Tehran, such as increased rate of population, air pollution, and increased national budget. And in the final step, after designing a scenario, these scenarios will be scored by experts. They then will be quantified by a special method in foresight. And in the final, the statistical predicting model will be constructed that have the coefficient of all 3 factors influence on urban forest development. And in the second method, we should use the software I3 and 3 program, future programming. And what we need in this method are drivers and direction of urban forest change. Also, we need some new map from Tehran city and the boundary of the city and the boundary of all of the urban forests in the city. As we mentioned in past slide, urban forests in Tehran include green belts, forested parks, non-forested parks, and tree plantation. And in the final, we should overlay all of this map in one layer that this map shows us the boundary of the city of Tehran and boundary of all of the urban forests in the city and around the city that's named Greene Belt. After that, we should do 4 steps. In step 1, we should digitize map on ArcMap software, also photo-interpret 3 and other color classes in each of these digitized areas by 500 points in each class. And the result of this step is this map. For exact classification, 500 points in each class is determined. And in step 2, sample the number of trees between 0.1 acre, 100 plots each for same 5 class. This will be given estimate of the number of trees. Like these maps, we should calculate the number of trees that's located in one circle. And in step 3, we should determine forces for change and likely rates. These tables show us the main factors that lead us to increase or decrease tree cover. In Tehran city, the main reason that lead us to increasing tree cover is tree planting. 3,000 acre average per year is planted in Tehran city. And the main reason that lead us to decrease tree cover are climate change, tree removal, development, pollution, old age, and drought. And final step, we should use the forecast program to estimate the likely future ecosystem service and possible management action to sustain a certain level of tree cover in Tehran. And we didn't this step yet, and we haven't any result for this step yet. And for the summarize of the whole project, we can say data should gathering by area or ground method, and based on this step, we can have current statute determine force for change, and in final step, we can have future statute. And in the final, I should thanks for everybody that listened to my presentation and everyone that held on this event and organized and planned this event. Thank you.
So, hello. I'm going to introduce you to Urban Matters. We won a Young Entrepreneur Prize in Spain last year for the concept of Urban Matters, because it is not the traditional study of architecture, but it has like different disciplines that they interact between each other, and is very much linked to the local and international research for successful projects. So if you open the website, you will see like the 3 disciplines. One is management, one is tours and workshops, one is studios. I'm going to tell you through examples what is it about and how is it linked to the topic of this event today. So management, what we do is to link like international firms, especially European firms, with local teams, wherever the project is, in order to create like the best team of excellence to make the project. So the international firm, they provide all kind of international knowledge and experience. We have collaborators as Moneo, is one of the Pritzker's Prize, the only one in Spain. He made the Cathedral of LA, for example, or Soto de Moura and VRDB. Chiara, some of them are landscape architects, some of them are architects, some of them has like very strong image of their architecture. So we cover like different styles and even sectors, no? Landscape architecture. So we mix it with the local partner in order to have the local input together with this international experience to make the projects going down to earth. So I'm going to introduce you one of the good reference of a built project. Before Urban Matters, I was working for the firm Westate. Westate was the firm who made Governor Island here in New York. I was involved in the competition, being part of Westate. So this is a project where Westate and local office Rio made this joint of forces of local and international in order to create a very nice project in Madrid, which was opened a couple of years ago, and I was working for several years since the beginning here. So Madrid Rio, it's a little bit like in Boston, the Big D. They have this highway going in the city. So this is Madrid Center here on the. Sorry. Where is it? Here. So this is Madrid's city center. This is like our kind of central park, the Tiro Park. And this is the first periphery, the first ring of highways in the city. And the city grew up this way. So the mayor decided to vary, to make the highway underground, creating on top of it a space of opportunity. So this scar of infrastructure in the middle of the city will become a space of meeting point between both parts of Madrid. And what is more, if you zoom out in the metropolitan area, you realize that the project is located here. It's like an opportunity as well to create a green corridor between the north part of Madrid, which is very fresh, it's very hilly, with water, green. Then you go down, you meet the city, and the city center in this point is very arid, it's very densified by the city itself. And then you go to the south, which is also, Madrid is in the middle of Spain, so from Madrid north is very green, from Madrid south is very dry, very yellow. Then you find another kind of landscape, which are not hills anymore, but it's like arid fields where some agriculture is placed. So this green corridor will actually unify, or not unify, but will connect this north landscape with the south. This will also suit some existing parks in the city through this green corridor on top of the highway. The cars will disappear, and now will be a public space, but also the fauna, typical from Madrid, would be, why not, possible to cross the city through this area, and also it's a place essentially for the people of Madrid, especially these people at the other side of the river that was historically disconnected by the building of this infrastructure. No? So not only the public space itself, but it's also a new riverfront to the park, because before all these were facing the highway along the river. We had like 8 lines of traffic here, another 8 lines here, and this was like nobody wanted to live here. So this will create this new city front, which is lighted here in red, and will create even a new economy for the neighbors, where before there were like empty ground floor commercial area. Now more and more are cafes getting opened, even art galleries, all of them facing the project. So sometimes the main critic of this project could be, yeah, it was a very expensive project, there are not buildings around that pay the project, but the social benefits of it, that you cannot measure in numbers, is really amazing, of how all these neighborhoods are being solving gradually the social dimension into benefits, no? And into local economy that also brings money to the area. So in this case we have like the level of the ideas, which was the competition, very nice panel. It was the winner competition for international level, And then we have the reality, which is a very artificial park on top of a tunnel, on top of infrastructure. So we have to be very, we have to think a lot how a nice public space can deal with these neighbors underground, and how to make a park, which means trees, vegetation, soil, can deal with all these technical conditions. So, what as inspiration, and this is how local input links the international input of these farms, the local and the international state, is, for example, we have this section, which is basically the tunnel. These are the tunnels underneath the park. How the landscape from the south of Madrid can meet the design, can meet the section, the technical section, and how the trees from the north of Madrid, which are trees that normally grows on the rocks, on the mountains that are very rocky from granite, can also resist the stress of being planted on top of a concrete slab. So the combination of both of it makes this special very characteristic from the landscape of Madrid, and also a very good match with the hard technical conditions. Not only that, also we have to include in this cocktail of design, to be a successful design, like sustainable values. Sustainable in terms of water, for example. Maybe you know that in the center of Spain there is a lack of water, so we cannot create like green lawns or things like that, because it needs a big amount of it. But we again use the local trees, the pine trees in this case, among others. This is coming from the region, which they don't have a big need of water. We only concentrate the high maintenance, like space for laying down on the grass, etc., at the 10% of the park, in a small area. But this green necessity is covered by all other species of green that they don't need so much water, and they can replace the grass or the high maintenance part of it. Also, the water is coming from recycling. It is a recycled water coming from the water treatment plant of the city. So it's the water that irrigates all the trees. This is part of the sustainable values, but we also have the cultural factors, and these cultural factors are very much studied by local people, or the local people can provide, the local architects can provide the best match of how a public space is used in Spain, especially in Madrid, because a park, a public space, people in Madrid they use it differently than even Barcelona, which is in the same country, or from France, the United States, or England. For example, here you see this picture. There is a very typical action after 6 o'clock, which is the paseo, which is the walk promenade, with family, with your couple, with young people, old people, just walking after the sun is not so heavy. So this park should provide a path, a generous path for this action that brings a lot of people to public space. So it's not a park to play frisbee. We also play frisbee, but it's not so common. But it essentially goes to how Madrilean people and how all these neighbors will use the park, and how the design will make an answer for that. Well, of course, all these technical conditions coming from downstairs will come to the park in a very well integrated way, like how to place the emergency exits, the ventilation towers, etc. So all this together will make the character of the design, and will make this project different than another in England or in France or so these are just photos of the park nowadays. Another part of it is Portugal Avenue. This is the avenue that comes to Madrid Rio. Madrid Rio is in this direction, next to the river, but there are some other former entrances of the highway, like this. So this is the map of Madrid Rio. I'm talking about this axis, Portugal Avenue, coming from Lisbon to Madrid, which has a different atmosphere. Coming from the technical conditions. We don't only have the highway, but in this case we also have like an underground parking here, and on top of it we have the pedestrian boulevard. But due to this double condition, it was not possible to plant trees everywhere, but only in certain points. And for this boulevard, this Portugal Avenue, we took the inspiration from the landscape that comes from Lisbon to Madrid, especially this part, which is Extremadura. And the landscape there is the cherry trees valley of El Jerte. So making a wink to, we are coming from Portugal to Madrid, entering the city to Madrid Rio in this point. We took the cherry trees as a leitmotif that brings the design for the boulevard, and try to create like a gate of Extremadura coming to Madrid with 500 cherry trees along this 2 kilometers boulevard. And even the technique to build it, the paving, we were using the Portuguese calçada, with even Portuguese people coming to build it. Probably you saw this technique in Lisbon or in Porto, even in Brazil, coming from Portuguese heritage, to make the whole Avenida Portugal. No? Here, this is the area view of it. Here you see the cherry trees planted, the flower inspiration of the cherry tree. These are the technical boxes, so natural ventilation of the tunnels, the parking entrances are over there, so one is there. So at the end the design comes out of different conditions, the technical basically, local inspiration, species and water maintenance worries, things like that. No? Brings the final design. So this is one view of the boulevard. These are the difference with the previous image of Madrid Rio. Due to the parking underneath, the trees are elevated for having the soil there, and the edge of it is the bench where you can have a seat. You could say, okay, yeah, I saw this technique in Copacabana. Burle Marx made a masterpiece in Copacabana, also inspired by the Portuguese technique, since it is very much linked to Brazil. In this case, is the transition between the city and the beach, the pedestrian area with the waves from the sea inspiration. But since we are talking in Madrid, we are talking about another kind of public, another kind of using the public space. So we don't have the gym spots of Copacabana, but we have a lot of sitting elements, a lot of shadow where to lay down at the avenue. So yeah. As I was saying, we have like 3 different disciplines. One was this this coordination between the international and local teams to bring a project together. But since we have the network of all these international offices, we also like to make a tour to see reference projects. So, for example, these people there, they are Dutch people from Utrecht, and they were, from Maastricht, and they were worried about the project in Holland, which is a park over infrastructure. So they call us, and we make the whole excursion, in this case in Madrid Rio, to show all the details on site, to touch, and all the numbers, everything, excursions to to get to know the project as a reference for their future project, which is similar to this. So like this, we show many spots in the city that can bring knowledge or can bring answers to people who are facing similar projects. No? For example, another one was about the efficiency of public transport. We don't only do it in Madrid, we cover whole Europe for looking for the best reference projects. In this case, what was efficient public transport. We went to the control center of Madrid, and this exchange stations, which are 5 in the city underground, where to meet the metro, the bus, bicycles, all in one building, which is very well integrated in the city, and this is working very well in the city. We also organize lectures about it. And the studio part, we as designers, we are architects and landscape architects. We also do our own design in architecture and landscape architecture. Sometimes we are called to make a study of a research about a certain topic, and sometimes we are just associated with other firms to make projects. In this case, for example, this was a study for Sol Square in Madrid. This is the most populated, or the most popular, square in the city, where all the demonstrations come. Every day nowadays there's a demonstration due to the crisis in Spain. They all come to Sol. So the mayor did a competition for studying what can be the future of this square to give an answer to all this demand. I'm finishing. So for us, the basic problem was that this is a very traditional square with sculptures, full of kiosks and lamps. So all these activities are dealing with that. But we designed a piece, which is like a paving piece, which can host very flexible activities, from having an empty square just for people to stand there, or for having all kind of activities, even bike parks, having shadow, etc. So this paving has a hole in the middle. It's a 40 by 40 centimeters unit, and depending on the necessity every day in the park, you can place things on this paving or take it out, or having different temporary installations, or it's also used for lighting at night. So it's very flexible. As you can see here, this is a night view. And well, other projects, I already run out of time, and I can explain you in another occasion, or you can always write me to this email to get more information if you like. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here.
It should be the same.
It's the same here. Lens Studio is my studio, and it's based in New York, but it's also a traveling studio. That's the way I call it. And has been in different places of the world, in India, in Japan, and in China. And
more recently in Mexico. So I will be talking about a couple of projects in Mexico. They have two completely different scales, but they have a common, the most important single factor is water. And water is controlling all facets of life of the dryland and semi-desert region. And both projects that I'm describing are in a region where we have about 20 inches of water for rainfall during the year. Compared to New York, it's about 15 feet. And mostly it's concentrated in 6-7 months of the year only. And so in 2010, a team of architects and engineers invited me to participate in a rather unusual project. And it's a 230-acre correctional institution in central Mexico. Well, however, after thinking about it, such a project and having concern, I decided, given the enormous scale and the opportunity to get expand my research on sustainable design practices in new developments, I would accept this challenge. So the facility will host about 2,500 inmates and 500 people working in the operation, court offices and police. The site is mostly farmland, and there are no absolute infrastructure of any kind nearby. The government wanted to use lead guidelines and for the facility, so the team was very excited actually to embrace such intention, and we consider all possible options, either the architects and as well me as a landscape architect. The schematic plan is basically organized on two perpendicular central spine with all the services in the middle, including kitchens, workshops, and activities and other buildings that support the operation. All the other buildings are pavilions for the inmates. On the northeast instead, number one, is the more public area where all the offices are located, where are large parking, and including a landscape feature which I call the promenade. And as a landscape consultant, I was very pleased to be fully involved in the planning process. And I've been doing research for some time on sustainable construction methods and techniques as well as water management. The harvesting, treating, and recycling of water has played an important role in this project. I developed what I call a landscape plant system. And they illustrate not only the different planting programs, which are shade, ornamental planting in the more public area, and the erosion control in the more in the outside part of the building, but also on all permeable, not the permeable area. But the vegetable program includes also in the inside part of the pavilions. But what was part of this program was the water and waste management. So the challenge was to convince this committee, which was composed of different specialties, but very little for people that could have an understanding of ecology or environment. And so I developed this diagram in a more simply way, an understandable way.
I'm sorry.
So this diagram basically shows two sorts of problems. One would have been an inevitable source of the well, water from the well digging. And I come out with, together with the architects, well, to the program to harvest rainwater from the roof, in particular, but also from other the average amount that would be able to collect from the roof of the building would be about 10-13% of the water demand. And the strategy but also include the recycling of used water from the showers and for the cleaning of the facility, and then would be directed and be used for toilets. And what I introduced, and that was the more challenging part, was a way to treat the solid waste. The part was waste from organic waste from the kitchens, and all the solid sewer from the bathroom. So the biodigester is something that I've been following for some time. I put all research at Syracuse University, and it was led by Dave Johnson, and which is a professor in environmental chemistry, together with Steve Geruso, biologist chief operator of the Minoa Village State wastewater, and an engineer, a German engineer, Klaus Doel. The group is developing a biodigester prototype that can treat solid organic waste from the kitchen and the toilets, reducing substantially basically the transportation and the treatment of the waste, while producing not only a small amount of natural gas that can be added to the energy system, but also a substantial amount of compost for improving the soil quality. So further treatments of the water will include also wetland, which has a subsurface flow, and the treated water, of course, can be reused for other for irrigation or for planting. The system includes also a large network of bioswale, also to clear and filter all the paved area, but also to try to keep the planting, which still is a challenge, particularly during the dry season. And okay, here. Another exciting problem for me was to something that I learned through the Horticultural Society of New York. And they have an educational program in the facility of Rikers Island. And they offered me one of the guides that include this program, and I brought it with me in Mexico and showed to the director of the facilities. They actually was a consultant for the project. He was extremely excited about it and very supportive. So together we were able to include this program, and so the pavilions are designed with a large courtyard, which will include not only the recreational area, including a soccer field or exercise area, but also a large patch of soil for growing vegetables. And you can see at the bottom where the pavilion is already partially built. So more landscape-wise, it's been fun to design this part of this portion of the project. And this is what allowed to consider more planting, also because in the restricted area there's no allowed plants more than 18 inches of height. So here there's people working, coming every day, people from outside visiting. So the intention is to create a more pleasant environment. And so here we have a little promenade and a place where also people can rest during lunchtime, possibly under a kind of a tree because the temperature in the summer got quite high. So this is what it is now from an aerial photo, and it's in construction. It's been a few years, and several problems. Security is a concern, and also in construction. So here we're going to a different part of Mexico. It's still in central Mexico, and it's still with the same issue where we have 20 inches of rain during the summertime. The past year actually was likely about 28, which is like almost 45% more than usual. And this land is about 170 miles from north of Mexico City in a nearby small colonial town, which is San Miguel de Allende. And here, one of the, well, let's say that as well was the project involved mostly the transforming and reestablishing the vegetation of this area, and including the construction of a family house. So the intention first was there were only 5 trees that we planted about 120 trees with the 25% of fruit and olive trees. The parcel was much of it grazing was the main issue, and so a number of trees have been growing for years in age, and even small shrubs. So the first thing was to build a fence, and so that it will limit the access of the goats and sheep. And but in order to support all the trees, we needed water was not available on the land. So the program include basically we built a cistern to take water from the house. So we had to build a portion of the house first in order to have water. The cistern is about 13,000 gallons, and it gets filled fully during the summer with only 700 square feet of roof. Has been built with all local and traditional method, which is one of the focus of this project, and as well the filter for the water, which just removes the solids, but it's also built with local and different type of stone. Inside the house, with a small strategy like recycling water from the sink through the toilet, and also separate the gray water and black water in order to have part of the water leaching through a very simple sewer system, which is constructed mostly with local material. Another issue on the land was erosion. The presence of grazing also reduced the vegetation, but also the presence of some hills, a driveway which were not permeable, holes, very deep ditch, almost about 5 feet sometimes, carrying away the very small amount of soil which is on the land. So here, again, reducing only what is available, and traditionally also considering traditional methods, we use carbon mulch. Rubber mulching is a very ancient practice in many places, but not many much here to help recreate the vegetation where the soil gets exposed. So the principle is basically lay over a layer of stone and keep the humidity and the vegetation grow, but also during time gradually remove the stone and let the vegetation expand. So every single aspect of every single construction, from the paved area to the fence wall and the house, are very traditional methods. These are the way they built walls and paved area being built there for ages. The attractive part for a designer is that I have to design every single thing. The windows, the furniture, the sink, and everything in collaboration with great skilled artisans. And this has been a very enriching experience. The area today is much more rich and vegetated. We take time before things will take over, but it's a place where I've been combining my knowledge of plants from the Mediterranean areas, and they are very available in that area as well. And using mixing up a little bit too of the succulents and shrubs and whatever support each other. Okay, little more eco environment. And I guess that's all for today.
I'd like to ask all of the speakers to come up and we'll entertain some questions and comments.
Yeah, I have a question. Mr. Gonzalez, what if anything that you have to do with, or can you make any comments on the Madrid Olympic bid? L'Olimpiade de Madrid. Madrid ha intentado de ganar los Olímpicos.
Yeah.
Which is a large urban design.
Actually, the project I showed, the Madrid Rio.
Madrid Rio?
Yeah.
Yes.
This was part of the aquatic activity for the Olympic candidature of 2024 that we lost against Tokyo, the last chance. So because the river was before in between this highway, now it's part of the park. And this river brings now new activities like rowing. And this was the part for the rowing activity for the Olympics candidature.
Right.
Yeah.
And my last question is, what did you think of the urban design of the bid and how it would have moved the city of Madrid forward in sustainability?
Of the bid?
Yeah, the bid. The bid is a very large urban development project, as you know. Right? My question to you is that, having had the opportunity to look at the bid, the document, right? What did you see in the bid or the document that you would perceive that would have moved the city forward in sustainability?
I don't know if I understand the question very well. You mean in terms?
I mean that London has just hosted the Olympic Games and they...
All right,
you get
yeah.
So,
well, about the Olympic, this project is not linked to the Olympic candidature. We only had, we were only hosting this water game for the Olympic candidature, but the Olympic city is somewhere else in the city. This came after the park was designed, so it was not thought.
I'd love to have a few words with you afterwards. I used to be, I used to play for Real Madrid, and I'm talking with the king and the mayor and whatever. And as you know, Madrid has been trying for the last 10 years to get the bid.
Yeah.
I'd love to have 2 minutes with you after.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
No problem.
This is for the first speaker. Sorry to forget. So could you say a few more words on what is the role of landscape architecture in the last project you talked about? I think with the mammals and the microbiology.
Well, I think the scientists who are working at the Microbiology Institute, they're looking at the effects of the species, the disease transfer, and the appendage to that of a landscape architect working with them would be to think about, look for precedents about how people can live with these different species and cohabit areas, and then think about applying that to those areas where they're having problems with this transfer of the disease between people and between different animal species. And at the moment, it's a working group.
The diseases in question have been increasing compared to other places where people have lived in proximity to animals, and they think it's something changing about the spatial relationship.
Yeah, it's habitat destruction. So the destruction of habitat is why they're losing the area that they can actually exist within, and then the genetics pool is decreasing, and then there's going to be a transfer of diseases, and diseases becoming more prevalent. And so the idea is to look at how societies that actually have interaction with species and cohabit and actually increase the biodiversity, whether they're protecting apex species or their pastoral techniques are actually supplying more food for particular types of species. So it's basically the problem is habitat destruction. So looking at human and non-human species populations that coordinate and live together symbiotically as a precedent.
Yeah, a question here, I think there's a microphone.
So several of you mentioned collaboration as a big part of the work that you're doing with research at universities, with other types of firms, people in different areas. Do you have any points of advice or suggestions that you might make to the audience about how best to go about establishing and maintaining those partnerships?
Well, from my experience, when the project comes, actually what we do is the management to find who is the best local team to work together with this international team who can offer this local input together with the international experience. But also, for example, if it's about the park, we normally need like an expert on local botany or some other consultancies, and many times people from university, to get to know the context of the project, the historical context, the landscape research about it, or things like that. So that's what we actually is our role, to look or to call or to meet several people, institutions, university, architects, engineers, and to see who can be the best match to bring the team together. And every project has different collaborations depending on the difficulty of it or on the topic.
How you find your collaborators and sustain those relationships after one project's done?
Well, the experience of the project in Mexico, which included a team that was put together as a consultant working with the developer in Mexico. The team was formed from people that had different expertise, including on building the specific facilities, so they knew about security, and it was formed by an entire, each person basically was from a different country, from Argentina, from Colombia, from Mexico, from Ecuador, and my presence was related to my already knowing Mexico and speaking Spanish, which was fundamental for the team to be working in such a fast time. The architects themselves, they had the relation with the developers that they started initially, and they continue to still today working on doing construction. I would believe that every country has a different way to, there's a culture behind the way people keep relation. In my experience with Mexico, I've been there for at least 5-6 years at this point. It's not easy to collaborate with the other international team. I found that they don't easily embrace, for example, in China they do. They are extremely open and interested in participation of designers from outside. So the keeping relation, it really depends on the cultural situation or the character of the country, and people build relation with time.
Right, and then
For Mr. Gonzalez, I thought it was interesting, you said at one point it was a very expensive project and everyone knew there would be benefits to the neighborhood and things like that, but I forget your exact words, but you said something along the lines of, but you can't put a price on them. And I agree that's what everyone says, you know, things like this, they improve the quality of life, they improve the neighborhood, but we can't put a price on it. But my understanding is in recent years, well, it's not so recent anymore, people are starting to quantify these benefits more and more, whether it's for real estate values or even very qualitative things like quality of life, human health and well-being, ecosystem services, the idea of attaching dollar values to ecosystem services. And so I'm just curious if that ever came up in the conversation, and let's say if the, you know, maybe politicians or the people funding ever said, well, we want numbers showing how this will benefit in various ways. Did that ever come up?
Yeah. Well, to know the mayor of Madrid during this period now is part of the central government. He's not the mayor anymore. He was called in Madrid Napoleon because he had like big star projects and he made them happen. Actually, there are projects that they are going to be paid during the next 40 years, so he was very much criticized by that, especially by the opposition. But